When it comes to Pokemon's protagonists, they've all pretty much been a carbon copy of each other. A young kid sets off on their Pokemon journey with the goal to complete the Pokedex, catch them all, defeat the gym challenge, gets tangled up fighting some sort of evil organization, and becomes the champion. But today, I'm asking a question we've probably all have asked at some point. Why are the Pokemon protagonists always so young? I mean, look at Ash. Ash Ketchum from Pallet Town was 10 years old at the start and stayed 10 throughout the entire show. Somehow. And I'm sure most people just think about it and go, oh, well, they're kids because Pokemon is made for kids and kids can relate to kids. And I'm sure that's part of the reason. But I believe it goes a bit deeper than that. It's just too simple. Not just Pokemon, but a lot of other Japanese things like anime, especially. The protagonists are very young. Always very young. Usually between 10 and 15 at the start of the story. And again, not only is it relatable to a child, right? To another kid. But them being so young represents the start of someone's life journey. A Pokemon journey is based off of a life journey. And around 10 years old is when kids really start to become more aware. It's when they start to realize certain things, start to really have dreams and aspirations and things they want to do and experience. But it's also a big moment of learning in their life. I'll tell you from my own experience, I'm sure you guys can speak about yours. When I was 10, around that age, a lot of the things I realized then are still with me now. Like, they have affected my mindset going forward. And of course, by now, I've learned a lot more I didn't know back then. And I've experienced a lot more as well. But it all started back then. And I think Pokemon's trying to show us what kids should be doing at that age. They should be going on an adventure and discovering who they are. Pokemon is all about discovery. Life is all about discovery. They go out on their adventure. They discover new Pokemon they've never seen before. People who they've never met. Places they've never gone. They're faced with so many challenges. Catching Pokemon, fighting other trainers, the gyms, the evil team. And with each challenge, you learn and you grow and you evolve even more. And it's also represented in the Pokemon. How Pokemon evolve. They grow alongside the protagonist, the player. Listen, at first I'm sure it wasn't as thought out as I'm thinking of it right now, but that's gotta be something they thought about when making this game. It just makes too much sense to not be the case. You know, nowadays, you know, they really like to limit children, you know, and that is the complete opposite of what you should do. I'm not saying send them out into the world at 10, but Pokemon is symbolic of what we should be doing. You know, not literally that, but it should feel like that. Letting the kids explore, letting them discover things for themselves, learn things on their own, be there to help guide them. Pokemon also represent friends. Friendship, which are very important. You know, it's important to have people in your life you can rely on, who are there to truly help you and love you. And a Pokemon is probably one of the most loyal friends you'll ever have. That's just a very important age and a very important time in anybody's life. I remember so much from that time. The only time a Pokemon protagonist was older than like 15 was in Pokemon Coliseum. The main character, Wes, is, I believe, 17. And it's because it was the game came out 7 years after the first Pokemon game. So, you know, if you were 10 when you first played Pokemon, you'd be 17 when this game came out. And that was their reason for making the character older. And that's a great reason. I like that a lot. Because it shows that, yeah, like, Pokemon has grown, you have grown, and so has Pokemon to the point where it's now a 3D adventure. So even with that decision, all it takes is a little bit of thought, you know, and there's just that much thought put into it. This is why the protagonist is so young. To me, this is what I think. I really do believe that's the reason. And of course, it also represents a child's imagination. Like when we're younger than that, right? Our imagination goes wild. We make up all these things, play with our toys, do different things. Then once we get to 10, around that age, 9, 10, whatever, it was almost instinctual for us to want to take our imaginations and have them come true. Actually, like, want them to be real. I wouldn't be doing this right now, making videos and all this, without me desiring to do this when I was like 12. Even younger, I wanted to do it, honestly, like 8. I don't even know. Around then. I started my very first channel. Without doing that, you know, without experimenting, actually taking the steps to try to make my dream a reality, you know, because, hey, that's more than a lot of people do, you know, and I was doing it back at 13, and I really admire my 13-year-old self, and again, I wouldn't be doing Vineoville right now if I didn't tap back into that energy. And hey, you know, I played Pokemon games when I was a kid. I'm still playing them now. You know, Pokemon might be losing passion when it comes to their video games, but I've never lost my passion for Pokemon. I never have, and I never will. Even if new games come out and they still fucking suck, and I choose not to buy them, I will still be playing Pokemon some way, somehow. And that's the thing, right? Look at the Pokemon protagonists. Yes, in each game it's a different protagonist, but the protagonist also represents us as the player. And once we complete one region, one game, become the champion, the next game comes out, right? It's like, okay, we play that one, and we do it all over again. Just like a child's imagination, your dreams and goals are always, there's no limit, you know? They're always going beyond what you wanted. Like Ash's story in the Pokemon anime. You know, he wanted to be a Pokemon master, that was his original goal. And then in the final, like, little season they did for him, he was asked, you know, so are you a Pokemon master yet? And he thought to himself, and he's like, no, I'm not, because his goal changed, right? And that's just the natural process. I know it might seem like I'm going on tangents, but I'm not. Like, this is all connected to the age of the protagonist. It really is. It is embedded into what life is about. Just listen to the Pokemon theme song, right? I won't sing it. I'll just say the lyrics. I wanna be the very best, like no one ever was. To catch them is my real test, right? That's the challenge. And then to train them is my cause. That is the goal. I will travel across the land searching far and wide. They're going out there exploring. Teach Pokemon to understand the power that's inside. Pokemon gotta catch 'em all. Okay. It's you and me. Okay, I'll stop. The protagonist learns alongside his Pokemon. That's what it means. I don't know, it's almost perfect. They really thought it out, man. And I think it's really cool how now I'm able to really make the comparison of a Pokemon journey to a life journey in general. It really is one and the same, and I really do think that's a beautiful thing. I know to a lot of people, Pokemon is just a video game, blah, blah, whatever. But it's way more than that, and that goes for all types of media. Movies, shows, anime, games, you know, it goes way beyond that because everything is made by people, and yes, some people just make dumb slop that has a certain agenda to fulfill, but a lot of things have a lot of heart and passion. I say this all the time. Everything that's fiction is based on something non-fiction. I'd say that these movies and shows and games are more real than reality itself. So there you go. That's my long-winded answer to why the protagonists are so young. Let me know your thoughts on the matter, and if you're fine with them being young, or you do want them to experiment and have an older protagonist again. I think that could be interesting, you know, like a college-aged protagonist. That could definitely be interesting. I think they could play with that. But hey, Pokemon brings out the inner child in all of us, and I wouldn't have it any other way.